Hi, I'm Gary. Welcome to my channel. Welcome back if you've been here before, and welcome to this look at the 2025 product range from Airfix. Now, this is a personal look at what the range entails. I have already interviewed Dale Luckhurst, the head of brand, and Matt Whiting, the development manager of Airfix. That video is available separately on the channel. This is just my very personal take on what they're offering this year. If you like the show, please remember, give it the old imperial thumbs up on the like button. Make sure you hit the notification bell and of course subscribe to the channel. It's free and is a great way to show your support. So why don't we start off with the headline acts, the new tool announcements. First is the Seppicat Jaguar GR1 and 1A in 1/48 scale, a very much demanded and much anticipated kit. This will sell very well indeed. 243 parts with a choice of ejection seats, posable flying controls including air brakes, a wide range of weapons and intriguing levels of detail. There are 4 schemes supplied, an early needle-nose GR1 of 54 F Squadron in 1974, an aircraft of 6 Squadron in the early 1990s, an aircraft of 41 Squadron during the First Gulf War in 91, and finally an aircraft of 2 Squadron at RAF Larbruck, Germany in 1976. Airfix say this will be here by the end of March. Suggested retail is about £60. Also in 1/48 scale is another highly demanded aircraft, the Spitfire T9 Trainer, with new 2-seat fuselage and new post-war wings, 128 parts and skill level 2. This will be easy to sell to anyone who's shelled out for a flight experience in a 2-seat Spitfire. 2 schemes supplied are for an aircraft of the Irish Air Corps at Baldonnel Aerodrome near Dublin in 1951 and an aircraft flown from Iver just to the west of London in 1969. The last of the 1/48 scale releases is the Spitfire Mark 9E. This features a slide moulded engine cover, options for clipped wings and, we're told, fine rivet detail. There are 3 scheme options, an aircraft of 43 Squadron Royal Air Force in 1945, an aircraft of the Belgian Advanced Pilot School in 1952 and an aircraft of 5 Squadron Royal Danish Air Force in 1947. To 1/72nd scale then, and another much demanding aircraft, the Westland Wessex HC-2 helicopter. This has a fully detailed interior and folded or deployed rotor blades alongside many other details. 3 scheme options are provided, X-Ray Romeo 505 during its time serving with No. 2 Flying Training School at RAF Shawbury in 1995, and the same airframe when it served with the Armada Nacional de Uruguay in 2000. And there's X-Ray Romeo 500 as it served with 28 Squadron in Hong Kong in 1978. The kit has 134 parts and I suspect the skill level 1 rating is incorrect, but it does have a suggested retail price of £25. Next in the new toolings is the Alvis FV622, the stalwart amphibious military truck in 1/35th scale. This is the first ever injection moulded kit of the vehicle and is entirely Airfix and not a collaboration with Academy. It has full interior and suspension and posable options for hatches and water deflectors. I know a lot will hope this Stolly is the basis for a new Saracen and a Saladin in the future. 3 schemes are available. The kit has 211 parts and will cost £40 when it gets here in the spring. Finally, in new mould kits is the Space Launch System Artemis in 1/144th scale. This is the launch vehicle NASA hopes will take human exploration back to the moon and then on to Mars with the Orion spacecraft. The kit has 79 parts and stands 70 centimeters tall when on its launch platform. As a gift set, it comes with glue, paints and paint brushes and will be available in the summer for £50. At the same time, Airfix is reintroducing the Space Shuttle and the Saturn V rocket, both in 144 scale and both also as gift sets. Well, the 1/48th Jaguar, that is apparently on pre-sales and pre-orders by some way. the biggest news of the year for Airfix. It's about time they did it, and I'm delighted that it is there. It's going to be a great kit. I've yet to see the plastic for it, so I don't know yet whether a T1 or T2 version will be available. I suspect it might be by the guarded responses I got from Dale and Matt when I asked them about it. But I think once you actually see the plastic, I'm sure you'll be able to see whether or not they're likely to do the trainer version. I really hope they do, because I will buy one of those like a shot. I'll be getting the Jaguar anyway, so hey ho. Spitfire T9, again, brilliant release. I don't think anyone else does it in injected plastic at 1/48th. In any case, it's essentially a completely new tooled kit, so fantastic to see that. Something a lot of people are asking about. And also something I suspect there's a lot of people who have done the Spitfire flights, the pleasure flights, which cost a few grand to do those. They're not going to balk at spending 30 quid or so to get one of these and make it themselves, or even commission them from one of their local hobby model makers. Now, if you've got the capacity and you live nearby one of these airfields where they do these things, do you know what? I think it might be worth nipping down there and saying, you know, I'll do a commission if people want them. I'm a model maker. Here's one I built earlier. If you want one of these, this is the price I'm willing to pay. You charge your bit on it and make some money of it. I don't have the time to do it. I'm sure some of you do. There could be some money being made there, I think. The other thing, the Wessex 172nd sounds amazing. I'd have preferred 1/48th to go along with the Sea King, but then it's in 172nd, which goes on with the Chinook, so maybe they'll do a 1/48th another day. And of course the Stalwart 1/35th Stalwart, the Stolly. I am really glad to see that. That's a classic British military vehicle. Superb to see it. And the investment in all of the suspension details and stuff like that could mean some other vehicles coming on as a result of it. Spitfire 9E, yeah, it's okay, great. Glad it's in the range. Not that bothered specifically about a Spitfire 9E, although there will be people who really like it. And of course it does come with the clipped wing versions as well. Comes with Belgian and Danish markings as well, so there's a lot of options there, which is fantastic. The thing that was a real surprise, and it shouldn't have been a surprise to me, but it was the Artemis space rocket launcher. Now, it shouldn't have been a surprise because when I did the sprue talk with Airfix back at the beginning of the summer, I think we recorded it, end of spring, early summer, Dale did bring up the space rockets, and I thought it was a slightly odd thing for him to have done. Obviously, by that time, they were committed to making the thing. One member of the panel was very, very enthusiastic. I really wasn't, and I remain to be convinced, let me say. Can I say now, I would love to be wrong, and I would love Airfix to sell a shed load of these and make a load of money. I really, really would. My concern is human spaceflight that important to people these days? Now, back in the 60s, the days of Apollo, Saturn V, fantastic, that's back in the range, really happy about that. Haven't made one since the 60s, so I will definitely be getting one of those to make, just for the hell of it. Saturn V comes from the days of Apollo, the space race, beat the Soviets and all that sort of stuff, the insane amount of money thrown at it. By their standards, let alone by our standards, public was right behind, well, at least the first few launches to the moon, after which they got a little bit blasé about the whole thing. And it finished after Apollo 17. They didn't go to 18, 19 and 20 as was the original plan, because there just wasn't any money, because people weren't interested. And that was going to the moon in, frankly, things with less computing power than your average smartphone. That was insane in those days doing that. And the bravery of these guys was phenomenal. It's still a very brave thing to do now, don't get me wrong. But I think we view manned space flight now as a little bit more routine. It's people going up and down to space station. It's people milling around on there and seeing blobs of water that form into spheres and see them spinning around and doing all sorts of microgravity things. When they finally get people up there and get people going to the moon, I'm sure there'll be more interest. But at the moment, I just don't feel it. I really just don't feel it. Airfix have done their research. They've done their focus groups and all this sort of thing, and they are absolutely sure that this is the next big thing. And as I say, I hope it is. I just worry that the political and public excitement about spaceflight is less now than it was. In fact, in many ways, it's more NASA versus private industry rather than USA versus China or USA versus Russia. It's very much, and to the point of the lander element of the NASA space mission is made by SpaceX, or it's going to be made by SpaceX. So, yeah, good luck negotiating the rights on that. You know, getting the IP clearance for that. That's going to be fun. Dealing with SpaceX. Oh well, hey ho, not my problem at least. So, I don't know. As I say, I hope it works out for them. I hope they make an absolute fortune on it. They'll make a lot of money selling the Saturn V's. They'll make a lot of money selling the shuttles, which I'm told is a very, very good model of the space shuttle. So perhaps I should get that. That's a little bit more my familiar territory. I was of an age where I remember the Saturn V launches and I remember the moon landings quite vividly. But shuttle was my era of space flight. I remember the first flight. John Young and Bob Crippen flying it, both major accidents. I remember the whole mission. It was my job to deal with NASA, this manned spaceflight division of NASA, on pretty much on a daily basis for 20 years. So I kind of know that era quite well. Even then, it was starting to become routine until Challenger blew up. That changed perception. And then when Columbia broke up on re-entry, again, that massively changed perceptions of people. But I think it was still seen as an accident rather than an indication of how dangerous spaceflight is, because it is actually a very dangerous thing to do. I don't know. Maybe times have changed and people will get excited about it. I personally just don't see it though. As I say, hope I'm wrong. Anyway, enough of all of that. Let's crack on with a look at the second and third year releases of previous kits, what they call the Capex releases. In 1/48 scale is the Fairy Gannet, now in the COD4, COD4 Carrier Onboard Delivery version. Some new plastic parts and 3 new schemes, 2 from 849 Naval Air Squadron and 1 flown by Flag Officer aircraft carriers at Changi in Singapore. In 1/72 scale, and unusually quickly for Airfix, is the second release of the consolidated B-24 Liberator, this in the D version. Has a new glass nose and will come in the colours of Lady Be Good of the 514th Bomb Squadron, 9th Air Force, and Hell's Bell of the 400th Bomb Squadron, 5th Air Force. Next is a new parts release of the Messerschmitt Me-410, its second incarnation in the main range, although it is also the 2025 Airfix Club kit. Here it is in the 410A1 version, a bomber from 16 kg2 and an aircraft of 13 kg2. Then there is the Mighty Whopper, the second release, this time the late HC1 model. There are a few new fuselage parts and 2 schemes, one from number 7 Squadron in the First Gulf War, and a 75th anniversary scheme from 18 Squadron in 1990. Finally, and in 1/35th scale, is the Ferret Mark I, the second release of a hugely popular vehicle. 3 new schemes are supplied for vehicles from C Squadron of some unnamed regiment in the 1980s, a vehicle from 7th Armoured Brigade during the First Gulf War, and a vehicle of the Royal Irish Hussars in 1959. The COD version of the Gannet is a bit of an odd one. Carrier onboard delivery, not the most glamorous of missions. Essential, of course, but certainly not the most glamorous of missions for a modern aircraft carrier. So kind of unusual to have gone for that version rather than, for example, have stuck with the AS1 and AS4 and put them in overseas markings. Australia, obviously Australia's a big market. Germany, I would have thought would be a big market, maybe Indonesia as well. Have markings for the three export countries. And I would have thought, you know what, maybe they'll do that next year or the year after as one of these re-releases, new decal re-releases of a previous kit. In the meantime, got the COD 4, which does have the attraction of having new parts to it. So it is a different kit in some respects. It's mainly things like the bomb bay and things like, and the cargo panniers under the wings. Again, Airfix know what they're doing. I don't know what, it's not my decision, fortunately, I suspect. But a COD 4, I don't see that being a massive money spinner for them. But then the investment is not massive either, because they've already got the Gannet, they've just changed some parts. Maybe it's a new frame, swapped out one frame for another frame. And then decals, box and instructions. So it's not a huge investment in money, and it does split up the investment they did make on the original tooling, of course, but just a bit niche, I would have thought, personally. Liberator and the Chinook into their second releases. Very happy to see them. Surprised it's a little earlier than I would have expected. I actually would have expected both of those to go into next year, but the Liberator was released relatively early last year, and Chinook as well. So yeah, it makes sense. It's a sort of 12 to 18 month cycle. It just happens that that cycle meant that it feels like it came rather quickly. But you know what? If you've got the product and you can ship it out and you can sell it, then why not? From the interview I did with Dale and Matt, it's clear that they are selling through the product really quickly, and to the point of people beginning to come back and ask, well, look, if we order this many, will you do us a batch? Will you re-release? So the demand is really good. They seem to be slightly on the keep them wanting more side of the balance of how many units to make originally, which is good, because the other way, which is you've made too many, means that you're going to have to start discounting. That dilutes the brand and it dilutes the product. To get them shifted, and then people are saying, oh my god, Airfix is doing terribly because they've got all this stock in the warehouse. Just don't order quite so much, and hey ho, and you're in that we can sell everything at full price thing. So it makes sense, really, doesn't it? The differences with the Chinook as the HD1 and the HD2 are relatively minor but important enough. The Liberator B24D has a completely different nose, and that's brilliant. Totally different version as well, and new markings for both, of course. The Messerschmitt 410, I was kind of surprised it was released at the same time as the FX Club kit. The Club kit is due, I'm filming this on the 15th of January, it's due in the next day or two. In fact, it's due out on the website, it's due to be done tomorrow. And then kits will be delivered from next week, most likely. But, it is a different model to the one that's joining the main range. Main range ones has got different parts. It's got bombs and stuff like that. It's a definite Schnell bomber version, as opposed to the one that's going into the club kit, which was one that was captured. So you have the option of the pre-capture and post-capture schemes that they've provided the decals for. Very, very... the 410 in the captured scheme looks really good. I think it looks really, really good. I saw it at Telford. I got a very sneaky peek at Telford. I wasn't allowed to say anything about it at the time. Loved it. Absolutely love it. So I'll be getting one of those, so I'll be doing the club bit. The important thing is, even though you'll be waiting for the kit, you can do your membership knowing that you will get that kit, because then of course you can take advantage of 10% discount, which applies to pre-orders. The sort of through the season offers, like the seasonal, like summer offers, tend to only work on stuff that's in stock, whereas the club discount always works on anything that's going, including pre-orders. I've pre-ordered a whole load of stuff and saved myself, I don't know, 30 or 40 quid already, just on the pre-orders, so I'm happy with that. The Ferret was the other thing I was very excited about. I didn't build the original one. The Mark 1 is more my era of ferret. Very, very happy to see that. I pre-ordered that already. I will be building one of those for sure. So that's all the Capex releases. What about some of the older kits that are coming back into the range? With new schemes, there is a reissue of the Focke-Wulf 198 F8, the Hawker Hurricane Mark I, the Heinkel 111 H6, and the Boeing B-17G or Fortress Mark III, all in 1/72nd scale. There's also the Spitfire PR-19, the Spitfire Mark I, and the Westland Lynx AH7, all in 1/48th scale. Kits being reintroduced with their original schemes include the long wheelbase Land Rover and trailer, 4-ton 4x4 general service truck, 1-ton Land Rover, and the 105mm light field gun, all of these in 1/76th scale. In 1/72nd scale, the Fokker Eindecker reappears, as does the Royal Aircraft Factory BE-2C. Also back in 1/72nd are the Bristol Blenheim Mark 1F and the Handley Page Victor in the K2 and SR2 versions. In 1/48th scale, we have the return of the Albion 3-point fuel truck, the 1500 weight general service truck, and RAF ground crew figures. There's also the return of the Folland Gnat in 1/48th scale and the Bolton Pool Defiant in 1/48th scale. The last issue is a bundle celebrating the Battle of Britain, which includes a Spitfire Mark 1A, a Hurricane Mark I, Messerschmitt Bf 109E3 and a Heinkel HE111P2. The set, being a gift set, includes lots of paints and paintbrush and glue and a dynamic stand that will hold all 4 aircraft. There we go. I don't like the 1/72nd scale Focke-Wulf 190 kit, the A8 and F8 version. The only one I've built, however, was one that was sold in the Lidl offer that was made to order for the Lidl. I do think that maybe their quality control is less than on the main range kits. I'm tempted to get one to find out, but I'm not sure I can be bothered. Frankly, it's not a kit I really want to make. And if it is like the one that Lidl had, it's really just going to annoy me. I don't like the way, particularly all the stuff around the engine fits together. It's really not good. The Fortress is good to see in a new scheme, and also a new RAF scheme. It's an aircraft from 100 Group. That comes with the ABC aerials, the airborne cigar aerials. Now this was, if you're not familiar with it, 100 Group was used for jamming and deception of enemy radar and radio control during bomber raids at night. The aircraft would carry an extra radio operator who was a fluent German speaker, and their job was either to jam the enemy radar frequencies or radio frequencies, radio controller frequencies, to tell the night fighters where to go look for, or to start issuing commands that ran counter to what the guy on the ground was trying to say. No, I'm your real controller. Don't listen to them. They're false. I'm your real controller. You need to fly north. You need to fly north now. And all of that sort of game, which, lessened the impact of the otherwise relatively efficient German night fighter force. Great to see it on the B-17. It has been released that once before. However, I would really like to see those ABC aerials on a Lancaster 100 Group operated Lancasters as well as the B-17. They operated a lot of them. 101 Squadron springs to mind. And if they were to do that, then Lima Mike 508 or SRP from 101 Squadron is the one you want to make. Airfix, if you're watching this. Thanks, guys. I don't see why they can't do that it's a one small subframe of parts. It could be done very, very straightforwardly. Nothing else, I'm afraid, on this list so far really excites me all that much. Anyway, finally, let's have a look further back into Airfix's history and look at the Vintage Classics releases for this year. Making their comeback are the Sopwith Pup from World War One, the Lockheed Hudson from World War Two, and the Seppaket Jaguar and Western Puma, all in 1/72nd scale. There's also a Boeing 314 Clipper flying boat in 1/144th scale, and the trinity of the Vosper motor torpedo boat, the RAF rescue boat, and a German E-boat, all in 1/72nd scale. The Boeing Clipper is a lot of fun. I'll definitely be getting one of those to build. I never made it first time round. Maybe I'll get a copy of the Puma as well. I did make one before, but yeah, I'll have a go at making another one. Hopefully it's a more recent kit than a lot of them, so it will be a slightly better and easier helicopter to make. I mean, after all, I managed to get through the Rotodyne without crying, so I should be able to make a Puma as well. The Jaguar is an interesting option to bring out at 1/72nd as a vintage classic when you're bringing out a 1/48th full size, brand new tooling. I would have thought they would downsize the Jaguar to 1/72nd in, say, 2 or 3 years' time. Bit like they have both the 1/72nd and 1/48th Buccaneers, and both of which sell very, very well. They would sell a new tool 1/72nd Jaguar as well, if not better, than the 1/48th, I am sure. So maybe the Vintage Classic is just a bit of a holding pattern, really, just to, for the moment, build this. We'll give you a real new one in before too long. I'm going to guess, say 3 years is my guess, and they'll have a new one out. Other than that, the boats are great. I love the idea of the 1/72nd boats. The only reason I didn't include them in my predictions, sorry, Mystic Mugs predictions for this year, was that it's only 10 years ago, or just over 2011, the last time all three of them were in the range. Generally speaking, it is a very generality. Generally speaking, they look for stuff that's been around for 20, hasn't been on offer for about 20 years. And the rest of the range of vintage classics, I think the most recent is 2006. The rest are earlier than that. So they fit that roughly 20-year pattern. The boats don't, but they've got the moulds. There's demand for them. Vosper MTB, who wouldn't want one of those? RAF rescue boat, absolute classic. The German E-boat, again, lovely set of 3, rather than drip feed them out over several years. Get them all out in one go. They'll sell loads of those, I'm sure. People love them, and rightly so. The Vosper MTB is a bit of an icon. Well, they're all icons of naval warfare in their own way, so brilliant. Well done them for bringing those out as well. Anyway, that's all we've got for the moment, at least. I think there will be more surprises coming out this year. I think there'll be another new tool release in the summer, and a second new tool release in November, around Telford time. There will be, I suspect, at least one, probably at least 2 more vintage classics. There will definitely be more new decal releases of other kits as well. And other relaunches of things in their original markings. There will be more coming from Airfix later this year. I think definitely 2 more new tools, whatever they are. I wish to goodness one of them's a Halifax, maybe the Telford one. Please, 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 Airfix, a 1/72nd scale Halifax. It fits all of your criteria for choice. Please do it before Italeri does, because you can do a really, really good job of it. The Lancaster you make is beautiful. The B-17 you make is lovely. The Liberator is exceptionally good. The Halifax deserves it. So please, Airfix, Halifax for Telford, and I'll be a happy boy. Anyway, do let me know what you think of the range in the comments below. I'd be really, really interested to see what you have to say. And do check out the interview I did with Dale and Matt as well. That is available on the channel already. Thanks so very much for watching, and goodbye.